Thanks again for having us, Amy. Carlton Ortega, I'm the solutions engineer here at PayTrace. Been here for just about 2 years. And then really the meat of what PayTrace is trying to offer for our merchants is we're an all-in-one payment solution. So not only will we cover the merchant services piece of that, so being able to process payments, but we also cover the AR application that might sit within your BC environment. So as we kind of go through the demo today, what we'll be showing you is our Trace AR for Business Central application. And essentially that's reducing your organization's day sales outstandings. It's making it more efficient for you to accept payments. And not only that, but it's making it easier for you to process those payments within Business Central. So I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen now. And then we should be landing on our customer card screen. We're going to be looking at kind of three core features that we've introduced into Business Central. That first piece is the ability to save payment methods directly into Business Central. The second scenario is using one of those saved payment methods for use on a sales document. So whether that's automation and charging that at a specific step, or the ability to use a one-off card at that step. And then third, sending an outstanding sales document to the customer's own client portal. So this can be, of course, derived from a sales order or a sales invoice. We always respect either avenue, but ultimately giving the customer the ability to make payment on their own accord. Depending on the timing of all this, I may be able to show some additional features towards the end, but anything I might have missed, happy to always carve some time out and then show that independently. Starting with that first scenario I just covered, once our PayTrace application is installed within your Business Central environment, you'll now see a new header, which is our authorizations and payments header, and our customer payment methods. One thing to preface is we are at the customer card screen, so we'll look at a few different screens here, but with that first scenario and wanting to save payment methods, we of course tie that with a one-to-one to specific customers you might be using. In the case of our demo today, I am using our CO test here. So here's that credit card field in the event you wanted to save credit cards, as well as an ACH field in the event you accept ACH and want to save ACH to your customers. As we scroll down here, you can see my specific customer has a multitude of saved payment methods. I have a few credit cards saved, a few ACHs saved, and then in this fifth or so column, there is a tick box to choose which is default. So at the moment, I do have one credit card and one ACH defaulted. And the reason why I put some emphasis on this feature flag is we'll use some of this automation. We'll use this default credit card as we look at a sales order we'll create fairly soon. Going into that second scenario now, now that we want to use one of those saved payment methods, let's go ahead and generate a sales order directly tied to this customer. We will add everyone's favorite Athens desk to this sales document. And then we'll add a quantity of 1 to this. In terms of what you as a merchant would be doing within Business Central, all pretty standard. You're generating your sales order, and then you're wanting to post this directly to the customer. Before I go to that step though, you'll notice that authorizations and payments header is at this screen as well. And on this screen, you'll have a create authorizations and payments button. If you didn't want to leverage any of our automation, or if Carlton Ortega called in and he wanted to provide you a one-off card, you can always process that at this screen. Or if you wanted to change any of your saved payment methods, you can always do that at this screen as well. However, I do want to lean on the first scenario and using one of those saved payment methods. So with this customer having a defaulted payment terms code tied to cash on delivery, what happens is the moment that we post this document, and I'll combine the shipping and invoicing just for time's sake, what's happening is Business Central is doing what Business Central does in the background. But in parallel to this, PayTrace is going out, looking up that saved card that we saw at the prior screen. We're wanting to transact against that saved card, and then ultimately make sure that we do get an approval on that saved card. Fortunately, we're in a sandbox here, so this transaction will approve, but you will notice a few prompts that you are met with. First one being if the transaction was approved or declined, and then a notice that the transaction was successfully captured. Lastly, you'll get a notice that it was added to the client portal, but I want to pause here to focus on the captured piece here. When we look at distribution, when we look at procurement, when we look at manufacturing, there's different scenarios at which your organization might want to get paid. So in this scenario, I tied the shipping and invoicing into one singular step, which I'm taking all the funds now that it's moved to a posted sales invoice. If for whatever reason you wanted to authorize the moment the sales order is shipped, you can do that. If you want to authorize the moment that the sales order is created and you've done nothing, you can do that as well. We'll always respect your organization's needs and requirements when it comes to doing those specific payment events. As we go into the posted sales invoice, we'll kind of look at the payment that we applied directly to this document. So now that we're in posted sales invoice ending in 4027 and go into that authorizations and payments header, within our view payment history screen here, you can see the exact payment that we processed on this document. There's that saved token identifier that we saw in step one. Here's the first six and last four of the card in the event the customer calls in and wants to know what credit card they used, the amount, the unique transaction ID, and then if you want to get into the accounting of it, you can always double click into the payment entry number and then view all of the entries that we've created tied to this specific payment. I always like to show this screen because if I look at specific payment ways that some merchants are going through today, some people might be doing payments out of a virtual terminal, coming into Business Central and needing to create those entries manually. Or maybe some organizations are getting paper checks and that paper check is being processed by a lockbox. You as the merchant, you get a file, but ultimately you still have to go into Business Central, make those entries, and ultimately close out the document. We kind of want to remove the need for that, right? We want to apply the payment directly to the document. We don't want someone to come in at the end of the day and apply those payments in. So instead, the moment you process the payment on that document, we bring all that data in. And from this perspective, you have to do nothing. Document closes. From a merchant perspective, you're happy, and you should be expecting this $1,000 in the next day or two, depending on your funding timelines. If I now pivot us to the third scenario, let's do everything we just did from that sales order perspective. The key thing that we will change though is our payment terms code. So instead of a cash on delivery, maybe you might have a net 30 customer or a net 7 customer or whatever cadence at which your customers pay you. Let's go ahead and add in that Athens desk, but this time a quantity of 2. And then let's shift that payment terms code to that net 30. As I post this document, again combining the shipping and invoicing, the one key difference you'll notice is we're not actually going out and fetching the authorization. You're not going to get an approved status, nor will you get a captured status. The only message you will get is the invoice was added to the client portal. So if I now navigate back to that posted sales invoice, come into the authorizations and payments, and then view payment history. Nothing here, which makes sense. You want to give your customers the ability to pay on that 5th day, that 10th day, or that 30th day. So if I pivot now from a merchant perspective to the actual customer's perspective, they would have had an email on file that is tied to the customer card. Within that email, they would have received, once the invoice was generated, the actual email to make payment against that, or essentially a payment request. So our environment is called BC Testing Company, but imagine your company logo, your company name, and your company styling as part of the email the customer would receive. Here's that invoice ending in 4028. Let's just double verify that with Business Central one more time. There's that 4028. And then bringing us back to the email that was sent 0 minutes ago, here are those 2 Athens desks that I'm purchasing as the customer. They're met with a pay invoice button and immediately redirected to their own client portal. So from a stylization perspective and customization, again, this can be your colors, your theme, your logo, your business name. The customer will be able to pay on this screen. And as they click pay, they can view any saved payment methods that they might have. In the case of my client portal, I only want to save my credit card, but if I wanted to save a new card, I can always choose that prompt. Or if I wanted to save a new bank account or use a bank account, I can of course add that as well. Let's go ahead and choose our saved credit card here. And I always like to pause on this screen because this is my favorite feature. From a merchant perspective, we understand how difficult it is to chase those overdue and outstanding invoices. You're calling John Doe to say, hey, you are 3 days overdue, you owe us X amount. The amount of effort needed for that grows exponentially as you grow as a business. So what we want to offer you out of the client portal is your customers to kind of view what is outstanding. Give your customers the ability to make payments against those overdue invoices. So despite landing on the invoice 4028 for just about 2000, I as a customer, I can come up here and do a lump sum against multiple invoices. So along with this one invoice, I've now lumped in six more. So you'll see that 2,000 amount balloon up to just about 18,000. So what's happening here is, again, we're offering the customer the ability to pay multiple invoices, and across each invoice that is paid, we'll bring in the each individual payment into Business Central. So you don't need to figure out where did this 18,000 payment come from, what do I need to apply it to. We'll automatically apply that to the BC document, and then we'll close that document as well. Before I click pay here though, I do want to show you some features out of our client portal as well. So the customer can always go into my account there in the top left. Along with going to their account, this is their dashboard. They can view this on their phone, on their tablet, on their laptop. We're browser friendly from any avenue they want to enter the screen. They can see how many invoices are past due and what their total balance is across all of their invoices. I always say this type of feature that you're offering your customers is really catered for those customers like myself in our example environment, our demo environment. I have so many past due invoices and a large overall balance where I, as a customer, I can come in here on a Friday afternoon, go to my invoices tab, and actually see what I need to pay your organization. I can click into each one of these individual posted sales invoice and see on August 7th that on this date that I owe the invoice for, I already bought 5 Athens desks. I can come in here and then again make payment against that invoice, but the real value is the historical context. So we're giving all the invoices that are due now or are past due, but we'll also give you the things processed out of Business Central. So anything done there, if I choose this top 4020, you'll see that the Athens desk processed out of Business Central was brought into the client portal screen. They can even view invoices that they might have paid on September 8th, 2025, and then view that receipt and print the receipt for a physical copy if they need it. The real value in this is it alleviates your customer service team or your account executives from having to go to Carlton Ortega, give him his receipt, and then make sure he's covered from everything he might need. Instead, your customers can go directly to their own portal and essentially self-service themselves to view anything that they might owe or might need for reference. Closing off the client portal here are our payments. Pretty straightforward what payment was processed out of our client portal, as well as in the event you did a lump sum payment, what was that $8,000 charge on my credit card for? Oh, I paid for 3 invoices there. We'll close out the self-service piece with looking at the wallet. So again, the customer can always come in here, delete any saved payment methods, add in new payment methods, so whether a card or bank account again, and then use that for payment at any future point once they're accessing their client portal. I'll bring us back into Business Central here and just end us off back where we started at the customer card screen. I always like to emphasize that what we want to introduce into Business Central is ensuring merchants stay within Business Central as much as possible. We want you to process the payments out of Business Central. We don't want to bring you to a third-party screen. We don't want someone at the end of the day to have to go to a third-party screen, find what payments were applied, and then create those entries out of Business Central. Everything we saw today, we're happy to go further into if preferred and if wanted. And there's also a bunch of bells and whistles I was not able to cover today. So if there are any questions, I welcome them. But if not, I'll pass this one back off to you, Amy.
Awesome. Thank you, Carlton.